am so excited to have you for the Never Too Late to Invest. You have an extraordinary background in finances and teaching us millennials and those beyond our ages how to invest and make smart financial decisions for our future. And so I am excited to learn more from you today. So if you could welcome our guests and give us a little background of how you got started on this journey, how you got interested in finances, because we know it's not such a sexy topic. And sometimes it's not a sexy topic for women as well. And so I would love to know, as well of our guests and our participants today, how you got started in this background in finances and your mission to provide this education to other people.
Yeah, so I basically got started. So I went to Bowie State University in Bowie, Maryland, which is a historically Black college, majored in banking and finance. But even before then, when I was in high school, I realized, or I knew I wanted to be a financial planner or a stockbroker. And I realized that at an early age, just because I love numbers and I loved making money, looking for ways to make money, and also looking for ways to make my money work for me. So I didn't have to actually physically work for every dollar. And so that's why I decided to major in banking and finance. And then I was able to get an internship at a company called UBS Financial Services while I was in college. And I was interning in New York. I was around like when Chipotle went public, which was really cool. And I just knew that there was pretty much two ways that the rich were getting richer or getting rich in general. And it was through real estate and investing. So I knew I wanted to get very well versed in both of those topics. So like I said, majored in banking and finance at Bowie State, went to UBS as my internship, ended up accepting a full-time position with them, stayed there for a few years. But even before that, before I graduated college, I had bought my first condo when I was 22. It took me an extra semester to graduate college, but before I graduated, I had bought my condo before that semester began. And it was one of those things where all my friends were like, hold up. We were all in the same classes as you. Like, we were at the same parties you were. Like, what in the hell were you doing that we weren't doing, that you moved from your dorm to a condo and we all moved back home? And I'm like, y'all weren't like saving and investing? They're like, no. So after working with these firms for a couple of years, I just realized that there was this huge gap of people that had information and did not, and the people that wanted to get information. Like, I had to constantly keep telling my friends, like, you don't have enough money to become a client of the firms that I work at, so I can't help you. And I realized that was silly, right? So I decided to quit my job. It's been about 6 or 7 years, believe it or not, about 7. I've been a full-time entrepreneur for 7 years. Crazy.
Wow,
so it's been thank you. It's been about 7 years since I quit and started Finances De-mys-ti-fied, like you said, with everything that you mentioned, but just on a mission to help millennials, entrepreneurs, and creatives to understand their finances and demystify them so they can bring all their dreams to reality. So that's a little bit about how I got started.
Very interesting. And I have a ton of questions to ask, and we have some questions today that we may get from our audience. But I'm interested to know that, did you grow up in a household that taught finances? Was that something that was embedded in your household at a young age? Like, I'm interested because you say you went to school and you knew you wanted to do finances, and that sometimes is very rare. So especially for women of color to take upon that interest. So I'm interested to know, was this something that was already embedded, or was this a God-given talent that's like, look, you're going to learn about money?
I think it was a combination of both, right? So my dad was a entrepreneur. My mom was an entrepreneur. My dad legally and illegally, both entrepreneurs in their own right. And so my mom just always talked to me about money. Money was a very fluid conversation. So, hearing that other families didn't talk about it, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, well, we talk about money all the time. I knew how much money my mom made. I know how much she had saved. I knew where everything was in the event that something happened to her. I also, she made it very clear, like I said, how much she earned, but then I will also sit down and go over the bills with her every month. So I knew how to write a check. I knew, how to look at the light bill or the rent or the mortgage when it came in and pay the bills. It was very a part of the conversations that she had with me as a kid and as I got older. So it was something I was very well versed in. My parents were not very well versed in investments. So that piece I had to go and learn on my own. So I remember when I first got interested in investing, I went to my grandparents, went to my parents. I'm like, I really want to learn about the stock market. And I remember my grandfather like, look, I don't know tons. I know a little bit. I have these like TSPs. I have some investment accounts, but honestly, I'm not really sure what I'm invested in. Take these statements and see what you can make of it. And I remember just taking his statements and like trying to understand what they were. So I would say it was definitely conversations that were being had. So we, you know, I'm a very open person anyway. So like talking about money and things like that is something that it was very common in my family. Yeah.
Amazing. So it looks like you had open transparency about it, which is
Yeah.
something that I think is very important as we are raising families, to have that transparency about it. Well, I'm going to dive into some investing questions.
Okay.
Right now, as you know, we're in the midst of a pandemic. We're in the midst of a crisis. And so I've been seeing so many conflicting advice when it comes to investing at this time.
Yeah.
And so I would like to know from you, what are some of the myths that people hear about investing in general? And then also, what are some of the myths that we are starting to hear now, particularly during a pandemic and a crisis, that you can speak to?
That's a good question. Myths in general, I think some are that you have to have millions of dollars or tons of money to actually start investing, and you really don't need a lot. I mean, you can start investing now with as little as $5. My first investment when I'm 35 now, but when I was in college, and when I started investing, I probably started with like $25, right? And just kind of work my way up from there. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I hear people like, oh, I don't have enough money to invest. You need to understand you don't need a lot of money to invest, especially now with technology. You can literally go to Acorns or Robinhood or Stash or these types of companies and literally start investing for $5, literally. So I think that's one of the biggest myths I hear. I think other myths I hear is that, you know, it's one of those things where you put, 500 in today, it's going to be doubled next week. That's not how it goes. This is not a quick thing. Investing is, unless you're like day trading, and that's a whole nother party, right? But investing is, you want to do something that's it's more long term, right? So I think also some of the things I'm hearing now with the pandemic is everybody is a lot more people are interested in investing, right? Which is good. It's a good thing that people are interested in investing, but just understand that anything that you put into the market, you need to feel 100% comfortable with potentially losing. Okay. So I think, everyone's saying like, oh, it's a great time to buy. And it is a great time to buy if you have money that you're comfortable with seeing constantly fluctuate, right, in the market. But also understanding that, I personally don't think that the market has hit its bottom. I think that we still have a while to go during this whole pandemic, and how it's gonna, like, how long people are going to be, on quarantine, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the market may go down even lower. But I will say, I do think that it's almost like going to Marshall's and running into a pair of Christian Louboutins, because that actually happened to me before. And literally, it's like that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. They weren't my size, of course, because that's how it works. So I was in Marshall's one time, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a pair of Christian Louboutins. They were like $400. And as you know, like, this specific pair was also limited edition. They were like regularly like $1,000. That's literally what's happening in the stock market right now. Stocks that are typically, a lot more expensive are cheaper. It's on sale. So that's why it's a good time to invest in the stock market if you have the extra cash to do so.
So backing up, I did see a question. It was actually a really good question from one of our participants, is if you could give an overview of what investing is, just a brief description of what investing is for those who are new to it, for their understanding.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I just actually saw that question. So investing in general. So there's different types of investing, but right now we're really talking more about investing into the stock market, right? So basically, investing, or the practice of investing, is taking your money, putting it in some other vehicle, and allowing that vehicle to make money for you, is essentially what it is. So let's say from a real estate perspective, which is a lot easier for people to understand, because real estate is something that is physical. You can see it, you can touch it, right? So you buy real estate, you buy a house. Let's say you buy a house for $10,000, and then the value of the house increases from $10,000 to $20,000. That difference, that $10,000 increase, is the money, the return that you see on your investment. another example of what investing is, let's say, I remember when I was in college, I bought Apple stock, right? When I bought Apple stock, I think it was like $50 a share, right? I had owned a couple shares of it. So I paid $50 for one share of Apple stock, okay? And I remember, oh my God, I never forget this day. I thought I was like the richest person ever. The stock went from like $50 to like $90. I was so excited, okay? Like so pumped. I sold all my Apple shares, which was the dumbest decision ever because then Apple went on to like $800 a share. But anyway, but let's say you buy one share of Apple stock at $50 and it goes to $90. Now you have a $40 profit, okay? So that is basically the process of investing. You take your money, putting it into something with, the hopes that it will make more money for you.
Got it. And so when you say share, I know we're breaking it all down.
No, this is why we're here.
That we can understand education is knowledge and knowledge is important for us. So when you say share, can you explain what that means for those who may not be familiar with the term?
Yeah. So a share is just like a share of a piece of a pie. Okay. There's a big old apple pie. You get a share. See, Jessica gets a share. Natalie gets a share. Mia gets a share, I get a share, right? So we all get a share or a piece of that pie. We're sharing in this pie. So when you buy stock in a company, you are getting a stock, or also known as a share, okay? So you can buy one stock in a company, you can buy 2 stocks in a company, you can buy 5 stocks in a company, or 5 shares in a company is basically what it is. So you're sharing in the earnings with this company is essentially what that means. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay, cool.
And so for anyone who is just joining us, I'm Jessica Byrd, City Director for Walker's Legacy, and we have Dominique Broadway here, and we're talking about investing in the stock market. So I have a question when it comes to how to choose where to invest, right? You mentioned that you chose Apple, and so that is one thing that I find to be familiar with most people when they first start out. They choose the companies or the organizations that they are we doing pictures?
I was doing a quick IG story, but go ahead.
I'm like, you gotta let me know.
You look good, girl. Don't worry. You look good.
But so you talked about investing in Apple. And so my question is that the way to go when you first start out investing? Do you start out investing in the organizations or companies or products that you believe in? Is that how we should start out? Like, how do we start for those who are beginning and they're like, I hear you, Dominique, I need to invest. It's no matter if it's $5. What do you think are like the starting points for those individuals?
Yeah, so I think exactly what you said. I feel like the best place for people to start is to invest in things that they are familiar with, things they already own. It's very, people make investing very complicated because they're like, oh, I heard oil is doing something, so let me invest in oil. But you have no clue how oil works. Why are you investing in it, right? I always start, or even when I started, I invested in things that I was familiar with. I owned an Apple MacBook at the time. Well, I still own one now, but I owned an Apple MacBook at the time. I was in college. I had an Apple MacBook. Remember when they had like the colors on the top?
Yes.
I owned an Apple MacBook. I had an Apple iPhone. I had an Apple iPod. I was very familiar with Apple, right? I remember even buying Disney stock. I was familiar with Disney. Even later on buying Under Armour. I was familiar with the Under Armour brand. I remember when my sister was in middle school, what are those skates with the wheels or whatever? I can't even remember what they're called. Anyway, you remember those they were like sneakers with the wheels were wheels.
Oh, yeah. They were sneakers, and then when you walk, the wheels will
turn into
pop up.
Exactly. And I realized, I was like, oh my God, all her and her friends are pumped about these Heelys. Let me invest in Heely stock. And I did during that time. And then I got out before the kids stopped caring about it. So that's another great place to invest. So first, I always tell people, just take a second and look around your house. look around, the stores you frequent. It's kind of hard to do that nowadays, and make a list for like a week and say, okay, and then you literally have your initial list of where you can start investing. So if you shop at Marshall's, invest in Marshall's. If you shop at Target, invest in Target. If you eat at Chipotle, invest in Chipotle. You have Apple, we use Google for everything, Amazon. These are all great places to start. Another great place, without having to do any like financial stuff, is look and see what your kids are interested in. Kids are some of the best stock pickers. So like what I said, I noticed my little sister was big onto the Heelys, so I invested in Heelys. I've like other brands, they're not coming to mind right now, that I see that she's interested in. Those are probably great places to go, because that whole generation is like buying it, and they're getting their parents to buy it, which make the company profits go up. So I think those are two great places and like exercises that you can do to literally come up with a list of like 10 potential stocks that are great places to start. One more thing to keep in mind, or another great place to start is that with some of these like some of these apps like Robinhood, Acorns, and Stash, they also will help you to automatically get into a mutual fund. And we can talk about what a mutual fund is, right? So they'll pick mutual funds or ETFs for you based on your risk profile. They'll determine your risk profile based on like a little quiz. So you'll open up the app, you'll fill in, answer the 5 or 7 questions about how risk averse or risk, you are, and they will put you in a mutual fund or a portfolio based on that. Okay. So if you're not about that stock picking life, you're not trying to pick individual stocks, you can go to one of these apps and say, look, put me in a portfolio, put me in a mutual fund or portfolio. And they will put you in a portfolio based on, how much you have to invest and what your risk tolerance is. Okay. So I probably should just talk really quickly about what a mutual fund is. Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a question about where, so let's back up to where to go. And then I do want to get into the mutual funds and the different risk averse and all those type of all those types of terms. So I want to back up when you say, you talked about all these, first I want to note that you talked about making a list of all the things that you see around the house and the places that you frequent. So I want to make sure everyone caught that, because you read through a lot. I want to make sure everyone caught that, because that was excellent advice when people don't know where to start. Dominique told us to, you can start right at home. You can make a list, look around, look at your children, look at your nieces and nephews, look at yourself, and start with that list of 10 to 15 things of products that you support and you buy with your own money. Next, I want to talk about, where do you go, right? And so there's different types of people when it comes to investing, right? There's this person who, like you said, they know they want to do Apple, they want to do Nordstrom's. That's my favorite place. They want to do Nordstrom's, they want to do all these different places. And so they want to be able to pick and choose. So I want to know, where does that person go to invest? And then the person that you spoke of, who may say, you know what, I'm not about that yet. I'm not about picking all these different places and products. I just want to get my feet wet and I want to do mutual funds. Where does that person go? Like, where do we go to get started? And then after that, if you can dive deep into what the mutual funds is and the risk averse terms as well.
Yeah. So I would say, so I think another really good, so let's say if you just like, hey, I want to invest in TJ Maxx, or I want to invest in Nordstrom. Stockpile is actually another really great app. I have some stock. I have like stocks on all these little apps, but Stockpile, it's STOCKPILE. You literally go and say, I want to buy Disney, and boom, you buy Disney. I want to buy TJ Maxx, you buy TJ Maxx. So that's a great place for that, for the buying the individual stocks. You could also use websites like E-Trade is great as well. Like I mentioned, the Acorns, Robinhood, et cetera. So Acorn, so hopefully that answers that question. So Stockpile, E-Trade, I think Stash, actually, I think Cash App is letting people buy.
I did see a notice for that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I've never used it, but that is something where I did see it in my app, and I'm like, what? You can like buy. So apparently you can buy stock in Cash App. I don't know what that's about, but That is a place as well.
Okay.
Individual single stocks, as they say. Okay, so then we have mutual funds, right? So actually, before we go into mutual funds, let's talk about risk, right? So there's levels of being of risk, right? So some people are what they would say conservative, okay, meaning they are not about that life. They are not about trying to lose a bunch of money. They're not about seeing their account go up and down, right? If you're one of those people who are like, I like a savings account because I know the money will be there, it's not going anywhere, you're probably more of a conservative person, okay? And then we have people who are speculative. That's me, right? I love a good up and down account because speculative people are going to see higher returns. As they say, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. Okay, so a conservative person doesn't like a lot of risk, so they're going to get less rewards. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like if you're young, and we all are young, fresh, right, tenderonis, we want more risk because we have a longer time frame. As you get closer and closer to retirement, let's say age 60, 65, you're going to be a lot more conservative, meaning you can't handle as much risk because we're going to need to start using this money for our retirement years, right? So if you're more speculative, you're probably going to be more open to buying individual stocks. You like a lot of risk, like myself. People who are risk averse, meaning they don't like it, they're conservative, they want stuff that's steady and not going to do too much movement. Okay, so now we can talk about mutual funds. And then I see someone has a question about index funds, and they're similar, so I will just kind of put that all together really quickly. So we talked about individual stocks, right? So like we said, you said your favorite store, Jessica, is Nordstrom, right? So let's say Nordstrom, and I'm going to also add in Saks Fifth Avenue, who also just filed for bankruptcy, so they probably about that.
Wow.
Sales, yeah, like yesterday.
Wow.
So sales. Anyway, so let's say Nordstrom. So let's say, Jessica, you decide these are some of my favorite stores. I'm gonna add some extra ones to your favorite stores.
Okay.
So Nordstrom, Saks, Target, and Google.
Okay.
No, Amazon. We'll say Amazon. Okay.
You know me well.
I know you well, girl. So these are Jessica's favorite stores. Okay. I'm also gonna add LVMH, which is Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. We'll add them in too, because we're fancy.
We're fancy.
Like I'm fancy. Okay. So instead of Jessica just buying stock in Nordstrom and buying stock in Saks Fifth Avenue individually, she's like, you know what? I don't want to pick a bunch of stocks. Instead, I would like to buy, we're going to call this just a retail mutual fund. A mutual fund that has all of my favorite companies inside of it. So basically what a mutual fund is, I like to say it's like an Easter basket or just a bundle of all of your favorite companies or all the companies that have a specific goal, okay? So instead of buying individual stocks, you can buy one mutual fund that has all of these companies inside. So like we mentioned, Jessica can buy, we're gonna call it Jessica's mutual fund. Okay, that's what we call it. We can buy Jessica's mutual fund that has Louis Vuitton, that has Saks, that has Nordstrom, maybe that has Neiman, also has Amazon all inside of it. So that's essentially what a mutual fund is. So instead of buying individual stocks, you can buy a mutual fund, which has, often hundreds, sometimes thousands of companies inside of it. So that's the difference between buying an individual stock and buying a mutual fund, okay? People like mutual funds because they're a lot less riskier. Now, do you remember a couple years ago when everybody kept getting sick going to Chipotle? Do you remember that? People were like, ooh, stomach, it was bad. People were like, don't go to Chipotle. Every time I go, it's too much, right? That's an example of you investing into one company and that company making some bad decisions and affecting the stock price. Their stock price tanked. Now, if you don't want to put all of your risk into one company, then buying a mutual fund will provide you a lot more protection. So you're not worried about one company making a lot of bad decisions. You can buy a mutual fund, which has hundreds of companies inside of it. And that also, reduces the amount of risk that you have, okay? But because your money is spread amongst hundreds and sometimes thousands of companies, it also limits the reward, right? So that's basically what it is. So you can buy individual stock or you can buy a mutual fund that has hundreds and sometimes thousands of companies inside. and that's it. Now, the other upside to having a mutual fund or owning a mutual fund is that you can also, what was I gonna say? Yeah, another benefit to that is where, I'm trying to see, how do you say it? So example, Google, I can't think of their stock price right now, but I think it's over 1,000, I believe, right? So the average person can't afford to buy a share or a stock in Google because the price is so high. But if you buy it and it's inside of a mutual fund, you can get it for a lot lower. So let's say you buy a mutual fund and it's $40 a share, but it has thousands of stocks in it, including Google. Okay. So you have Google, you have Amazon, you have Saks, you have Nordstrom. You get what I'm saying? So that is also the other upside of having a mutual fund, is that you can a lot of times buy or invest into companies that you couldn't afford to invest in if you bought just a single share of it.
Got it.
Okay? Yeah. So
that's
yeah,
that's the pros and cons. So the mutual fund is that it allows you to invest in multiple stocks at a lower cost, it seems like, right?
Yeah. So you're buying a bundle instead of an individual one.
Right. And then you also are on the less risk side when it comes to buying an individual stock. The reward in the end may be greater, but it's more riskier and it can be more pricier. Did I do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Cool.
Perfect.
So my next question is, why shouldn't people be afraid to invest? I hear a lot of people, especially now, there's a lot of talk of people saying, I don't want to check my 401k right now. It's depressing, and the stock market is depressing. What can you speak to the fear that comes with investing and not being afraid?
Yeah. Well, they say scared money don't make money, right? And it's true. It's true. I think, look, this is the way I look at it, right? I don't know. We're all old enough, I believe, to remember like 2007, 2008, 2009, when the stock market was just tanking. I think it was 2009. That's when I was still working in the wealth management space. We literally had clients losing $1 million a day. The stock market was tanking. They had to actually halt trading, which is something they rarely ever do, because the market was just tanking drastically, right? So that was 2009. This is 2020. With all that being said, this happens, right? The market, it's almost like a market correction. I'm not going to get nerdy on you, but the market sometimes has to correct itself. So with that being said, don't freak out. Okay. This happens every few years. Your accounts always bounce back. You're young, right? Let's say if you're under 55, I would say don't worry about it, right? You're going to bounce back. If you're older than that, this probably is a good time to talk to your financial advisor and make sure that you're not in stuff that's super risky, because your timeline is a little bit shorter, okay? But if you're under that age, don't worry about it. You should start seeing, the market kind of return and get back to where it was and maybe higher within the next year and a half, okay? So don't stress about it, is basically what I'm saying. Don't look at your 401k every day. That's silly. Don't do that. If your 401k is a long-term investment account, which means that you shouldn't be looking at that every day. Don't sell anything in your 401k right now. I think that's some of the biggest mistakes I've seen people make. They're like, oh my God, the market's going down. Let me call them and sell stuff. Don't do that, because once you sell items in your 401k, now you have captured that loss. Now you officially have lost that money. As long as you hold the positions and hold the shares, and hold the stocks or hold the mutual funds, you're in, right? You still own it. So if it goes back up, you go back up with it. But if you sold it, you don't own it anymore. Okay. So don't look at the stuff, to be honest, unless you're seriously, don't look at it unless you're actively, like, I do day trade. So I look at the markets every morning. I'm trading, spend the first 2 hours of my day trading. So I'm looking at the markets. I'm making trades constantly, right? But if you're not doing that, then don't look at it. Like, don't. So don't be scared.
Don't be scared. She said, Dominique says, scared money don't make money.
It don't.
I'm taking that quote. You spoke a lot briefly about financial advisors. And so if you can tell us, if you're just starting out or you may have been in the stock market for some time, when do you know the best time to to consult with someone else? Like, when do you know, what, I need additional help? Or is it when you first starting out? Because you mentioned some resources that like Stockpile and E-Trade. But when is a good time to consult with someone else to get, the help or assistance you need with trading or stock or investing? When would you say someone should consult with someone?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on kind of where you are, right? If you're just investing less than $5,000, you probably can manage it on your own. You probably, especially with a lot of like the robo advisors that they have, like a Charles Schwab has really great robo advisors, excuse me, or using just some of the online technology, you could figure it out, or they can help you virtually, as they say. If you get to a point where you have larger amounts to invest, then you probably may want to reach out, and talk to like a financial advisor who can help with managing your money, right? But that's usually when you start hitting like 100,000 or so, because they're not going to really meet with you if you don't have that much money, to be honest. But let's say if you're at another point where it's not necessarily just investments, but it's like you need coaching with your budgeting and saving and stuff like that, do you want to reach out to maybe a financial coach or someone that can help you get to that point? But typically financial planners are going to want to see that you have 100,000 or $500,000 to really have a true conversation with you, to be honest. But I would say with thank goodness for technology, because it really is allowing a lot more people to get access to, to financial advisors or financial advising techniques through technology. So like I said, Charles Schwab has a great robo-advisor program. I think their minimum is like $1,000, which isn't bad at all. You only have to have $1,000 to invest for them to place, to manage your investments with the robo-advisor. I think E-Trade has some as well, but it really just depends on where you are in your financial life. Hopefully that kind of answers the question.
That does. And I'm going to go to some questions because they're speaking on the financial advisor piece. So what is the difference between a fee-based and a fee-only advisor? Someone asked.
So fee-based and fee-only is technically the same thing, actually. Fee-based and fee-only. So fee-only is meaning they only get paid based on whatever fee they charged you. So there's pretty much fee-only or fee-based, which is like literally the same thing. So like fee-only or fee-based advisors, and then there's commission-only advisor. So fee-based or fee-only, like I said, literally is the same thing. They charge a fee, right? They charge $1,000 or $2,000 to advise you and manage your investments, or they charge 3% a year to manage your money, right? Let's say if you got $500,000, they charge a fee of 3%, but all that stuff's going to be stated. And then commission only advisors are financial advisors that literally get paid just commission or get paid commission to help you manage your money. So when you place a trade, they get a commission for that. Or if you are, they may be selling you life insurance, they get a commission for that. So there's both kinds, but that's pretty much the difference. And you can ask your financial advisor, like, how do you get paid? And they are supposed to tell you, I get paid from the fee, or I get paid, and these are the fees, or I get paid when you buy something.
Got it.
Like an annuity or something like that.
And so the ones that you talked about earlier that can be done virtually, like E-Trade and things like that, those are services that come complimentary when you invest through their platforms, or those usually typically cost too?
Yeah, so it depends, right? It depends. E-Trade has I can't remember E-Trade's, you'll see it on the website. I can't remember their exact minimum or whatever, but they have a certain amount where it is free after a certain amount. Okay. But I know Charles Schwab, and I am kind of a Charles Schwab brand advisor, just brand ambassador, just full disclosure. But I believe their minimum is only 1,000, and then you get the robo advising for free.
Oh,
but I'm not sure
about the others.
I'm sure about the other one. Okay. Yeah.
And so earlier you talked about day trading, and we had a question about day trading. How did you learn about it, and how any platforms or any resources that you can give to our participants or audience that are watching that may be interested to learn more about the day trading?
Yeah, I mean, it's something you kind of learn over time. I don't really have any like classes or anything that I could recommend, to be honest. But I think it's something that you really do kind of learn over time. Like I said, I don't have any like resources that I really can think of that I feel comfortable sharing. Yeah. So sorry.
Okay. We got to do our homework, right? We have our
But I would say Investopedia is a really great place, a great resource for me. Something like that, you do have to have a lot of cash on hand to really be able to move, right? And there's some, if you email me, I can send you some stuff, but I would definitely start there. But shoot me an email if you have like any specific questions. I can try to field those for you later.
Perfect.
That's a whole other party though. It's a whole other.
I do have a question about, because I hear this a lot, and I must admit, I was one of those individuals that thought that you needed to save a certain amount before you can invest. So I'm interested to know your take on that. Should we have, what is that, the 6 months of living expenses in our savings, another savings? I am an avid financial book reader, only because it's a place that I want to grow in. And I do see a lot about having that 6 months worth of living expenses, having this other account for this, and then moving on to investing. So my question for you is, what is your take on that? Do they all work hand in hand? Can you do them simultaneously, or is it a step-by-step type of thing?
Yeah, I think it depends on, that's a really good question actually, but I think it depends on the person, right? I think it really does. I mean, when it comes to personal finance, please understand it is not one size fits all. It varies per person because everybody's situation is so different and everyone is motivated by different things, right? So, and that's why it's really important to like know yourself and understand like what motivates you. So I would say, me personally, when I was like really getting started, I was doing both at the same time. I was saving and investing at the same time. Because I felt like I didn't want to wait and miss out on the opportunity for my money to be growing while I'm saving. But everyone's different. I also didn't have any debt. Right. That's another piece too.
Because another piece talks about, actually, some pieces talks about getting out of debt before you even move on to the saving and then moving to the investing.
And I personally feel like these things all need to be happening simultaneously. I think you need to be tackling your debt, and I also think that you need to be saving and investing at the same time if it's possible. And even when I say investing, like when I was tackling or doing these different things, I think I had like a little bit of credit card debt when I first started, but not much. It was like maybe $2,000, but I was like slowly tackling that, saving a bulk of my money because I was trying to hit the emergency savings goal. And then I think I was doing like $50 every 2 weeks to investing. It wasn't anything crazy, right? Just so I can have something going everywhere. And then also making sure that the debt was at a very low interest rate. Okay. I know this is an investing talk, but this is a great time to see about reducing like the interest rates on your credit cards, because the feds have kept the interest rates at 0%, which means that credit card companies can afford to charge you less. So there's going to be a lot more 0% offers, balance transfer offers. This is a great time to take advantage of that. If you aren't getting any, you can always just call your credit card company and be like, reduce my rate, right? So I know, like I said, I know this is an investing talk, but I have to say that too. But anyway, so what are we talking about? I forgot what we were talking about.
We were talking about the process of should we
save
or should, so I think you answered it that it's personal. I think one of the key things that you hit on is that finances is a personal thing and it's not a one size fits all. But going back to our investing questions, we have someone that asks, do you need good credit to open a brokerage account to start investing, or does it matter? And she says she knows some of the brokerage account you need for high yield checking account, not sure about their brokerage account. So wrap that all up, because I don't know if everyone can see the questions. The question again is, do you need good credit to open a brokerage account to start investing, or does it matter?
Yeah, no, you don't. No. So your credit has nothing to do with the brokerage account. So also, I know they said Charles Schwab checks credit. They don't actually. They don't check credit. No account checks credit. What they're checking is the checks system. And the check system
Mm-hmm.
is the system that says if you constantly like overdraft your accounts and switch banks and blah, 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 right? That's the checks system. So typically banks, not all banks, but most banks will check the checks system before allowing you to open up an account, because they don't want to fall victim to the same thing, right? So no brokerage account checks your credit. No.
So they don't check your credit, but they do check your check system. The check system to see how you manage your personal check.
Yeah, not all of them, but most accounts do. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then backing back up, when it comes to the fees for the financial advisors, we had a question about, looks like it's a Amber Alert. Sorry about that.
Oh.
We had a question about, is 2% a reasonable fee?
Reasonable fee.
What are reasonable fees? 2%?
Yeah. Honestly, it depends, right? So
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. So basically the way that fee structures work, if you're doing a managed portfolio, they're going to disclose to you what the fees are before you sign up. Typically the way it works is the less that they're managing, the more they charge. Once you hit certain points, they'll charge less. So let's say if it's, I don't know, every company's different, but let's just say if they're managing $10,000, the fee may be 1.5%. And then let's say, once you go from that amount to $500,000, once you have $500,000 under management, it could be 0.5. You know what I mean? So it varies. It literally depends on the company. It's hard to say. I mean, 2% is technically is reasonable, but you need to see what is all that include, and then how much of the money that they're managing for you. So it's very specific. So it's hard to kind of give a general. Yeah. But 2% isn't unheard of. Yeah.
Okay, so for those that are just joining us, we're talking to Dominique Broadway about investing and beyond, because she asked some questions that is beyond investing. And so we're talking about the fees, and the 2% is at a reasonable price. I'm going to try to quickly get through some of these questions. We have a question about backing back up to the resources. I know you mentioned Robinhood, but we have a question. Someone said they have some cash and they're interested in investing, and they're thinking of using an app like Robinhood. There are so many, and are there any better apps in your opinions for a person that's a new investor?
Honestly, they all kind of are the same. I would say the biggest, so I feel like Robinhood, Stash, and Acorns are probably all similar.
Okay.
I like Acorns the most. I don't know, just because I like the colors. I don't know. Sometimes
you like the branding.
Yeah. Honestly, sometimes a lot of stuff comes out with the branding and whatever user interface you like the best. And to me, I just like Acorns the best. But I would say they do more like mutual funds and like portfolios. If you want the individual stocks, I would probably recommend Stockpile. So I literally have all of them, to be honest. But I'm also like testing them out so I can help you decide, right? But that would be my answer. So I really like Acorns personally. I just think they're pretty, and they also have they're one of the few companies too that also allow you to open up a retirement account. So a lot of the other companies don't do that. So within Acorns, you can open up what they call Acorns Later retirement, like Acorns for Later. It's kind of cute, right? Cute branding. So Acorns, so I like them. Acorns Later, which has a retirement account portion too, which I think is great because I'm a big proponent of Roth IRAs. So that's the difference there. But I think Stockpile is really, really cool because you literally can go on and say, I want to buy stock in Nordstrom, and boom, it's right there. So yeah.
And I do have a question because you spoke about IRAs and Roth IRAs. So for the individual that is investing through their job, let's say they threw a 401k, what do you say to that person? Should they get an additional IRA? Should they do an additional investment in stock through Robinhood or Acorn or these other Stockpile? Like, what do you suggest for that individual that maybe like, oh, I'm already investing through my 401k, I'm good. My 401k, excuse me, I'm good. What is your advice to that individual? What is because it's a lot of people out there, and I myself included, I thought that the 401k was enough for me. So what do you say to that individual that may have those misconceptions?
Yeah, so you need to do more than just the 401k. The 401k or the TSP if you work for the federal government, or 403b if you work for, I guess, colleges or whatever, or hospital, 457. Those aren't enough. Those are your employer sponsored retirement plan. Obviously, when you leave, that money goes with you, minus any money that's not vested. So let's say if you went to the company, you stayed there for a year and you had to be there for 2 years for whatever they contribute to become yours, then that part stays. Okay, I think people forget that part too. So that's why it's also important, just like I always say, and I know this is an investing thing, life insurance as well. Your life insurance, if you have life insurance with your job, that's great. But if you leave your job, your life insurance stays and now your family is not protected. So you want to make sure you have your own life insurance. That's your own private insurance that goes with you no matter where you are in life. Okay. So getting back to the retirement account, yes, I think it's important to have an account outside of that. So you have your 401k, your TSP, whatever your job's offering. And then you have an individual brokerage account outside of that, that can be just an individual account or an account for you and your significant other, which can be a joint account. It could be a custodian account for your child. It could be a trust, if you're opening up a trust, or it could be a Roth IRA, which allows you to save for retirement tax free. So really quickly, and this is the reason why you want to have multiple, right? So with your 401k, we all know that that's all pre-tax money, right? Meaning you have not paid taxes on that money. So once you hit age 65 or whenever you retire, then you're paying taxes on that money. Who knows what the tax rate will be 30 something years from now, right? We have no clue. It could be 60% or whatever, right? And so then you're paying taxes on all that money, and you think you're about to walk away with $500,000, and they're like, okay, $500,000 minus 60%, right? So that's why it's important to have other outside accounts, like an individual account, which can be taxed now, or a Roth IRA, which is 100% tax free. I think everybody who's eligible should get a Roth IRA, because a Roth IRA, literally all the money grows tax free. So if you put $5,000 in and it grows to 30,000 or whatever, it's all tax free earnings. You can contribute up to $6,000 a year to a Roth IRA. And that's why you can only contribute up to $6,000, because it is tax free. So when you get to retirement, you want to have a lot of different buckets of money, right? You want to have your emergency savings, which is your cash. You want to have your pre-tax money, like your 401k, your after-tax money, as well. So you want to have kind of a mixture of all of it. But like I said, you want to make sure that that you're eligible for a Roth. I can't remember what the new numbers are for 2020, but if you're an individual, it's like if your adjusted gross income, I think it's like 125,000. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's something like that. So there are income limits. So that's why I tell people too, and I work with a lot of people that are straight out of college, I'm like, get your Roth now, max it out as much as you can, because eventually you're going to hit that cap, hopefully, that you're not going to be eligible for a Roth anymore.
Got it. Dominique, we can talk forever, can't we?
Yes, we can. We're
getting questions. We're getting tons of questions, and I know we're coming up tight on time. So I have a couple of things, and then we'll have to say goodbye. Sorry, we can't get to all of the questions, but quickly, if you can do this quickly about U.S. bonds or T-bills. And then I think you talked about the IRA for those who are self-employed. So if you can answer those two about U.S. bonds or T-bills, and then are there retirement options for those who are self-employed?
So
401k.
So really quickly, not sure what the question is about bonds or T-bills.
They just asked,
what about them?
General question.
I don't do either.
Do you recommend
personally.
them? I'm sorry, she just asked.
No, I don't. Okay. I don't. I do actually. So some of the day trading that we've been doing is with bond futures, right?
Okay.
So I do day trade bond futures. But as far as bonds, just regular bonds go, I don't think they're worth it. Like I love my grandfather. He used double E series bonds to put me through college. They're great, but they take, I can't even remember. I think 10, how long do they take? 10 years to double? I can't even remember. I think it's 10 years to double. So basically you spend 25 today and it's like Yeah, it doubles in like, I think 10 or 20 years. I can't even remember because I'm so far removed from them. So no, I don't do any of those personally, so I can't recommend them.
Okay.
But I mean, if you like a slow way to earn money, then do it. I mean, they are safe, right? If you're looking for safe, I don't like safe, right? Safe is, you know,
Safe is not
spare
fun.
money, don't make money. Yep, safe isn't profitable. Okay, other question we have
So the other one was
here.
for the self-employment. Is there a
Yes.
retirement option for those besides a traditional 401k if people are self-employed? So for our entrepreneurs out there.
Yep. Hey,
Okay.
hey, team entrepreneur. So, entrepreneurs, yes, there are options for us. There's a few options actually. So you can do a what they call a individual 401k. So like it's like literally a self-employed 401k. So you can actually open up a 401k for yourself. And then in addition to that, there's also SEP IRAs, which is SEP IRA is another option for for self-employed people. And then the other would be a traditional IRA. And then there would also be still a Roth IRA. Okay, so these are all different options. You have to talk with your tax advisor to see what makes best sense for you. But, you know, obviously with the Roth IRA, we just talked about that. That's an after-tax contribution. The SEP IRAs and the solo 401ks are going to give you the tax write-offs, right? But also with those accounts, you can contribute a lot more. So with the SEP IRA, it's up to I'm not remembering my number today, like 40 or 50% of your gross revenue, you can actually contribute up to a certain amount, versus your solo 401k, I believe the maximum you can contribute is 19,000, right? So that's why it's important for you to kind of talk with your tax advisor to see what makes the most sense. But there are options for you.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much, Dominique. This
You're
was
welcome.
amazing. Thank you for joining us. I know people have way more questions than we can ask in this session.
Yeah.
So if you can let us know how people can keep in touch with you, do you offer sessions? How can we keep in touch with all of your good knowledge that you have to share with us?
For sure, for sure. So just Dominique Broadway on IG, my business website is financesdemystified.com. I also have a 100% free challenge that we offer. It's a 5-day challenge. 5-day challenge that goes over budgeting, saving, investing, credit, like literally everything in complete detail, worksheets, everything is 100% free. It's yourwealthyyear.com. I just dropped the link. Make sure you go through there, check it out. It's a really, really, really good free challenge. Like, we got extra time on our hands. You can take 15 minutes a day, work on your finances. By the end of the 5 days, people are like, yo, my whole financial life has changed. Like, that's what it's about. So make sure you go to all those places to follow. And please, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. And yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Dominique, this was a pleasure. Thank you. And I will start on that challenge, and everyone else enjoy the rest of their day and enjoy the rest of the Reclaiming Your Wealth Digital Summit. Thank you guys.
See you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.